Hi guys, and welcome to another lesson brought to you from Miss Smith's Bed. Today we're going to start talking about the different properties of addition and multiplication and how they work within equations. So get ready to take some notes and learn more about the different properties of addition and multiplication. Today we're going to briefly talk about the 6 different properties of multiplication and addition. Some of these properties only relate to multiplication, and we're going to look at the differences between the properties when it is a property of both multiplication and addition. Starting with the commutative property of addition, the order of the addends can change, and the sum will stay the same. So in this case, the order doesn't matter, and you will get the same answer. So 2 plus 5 equals 5 plus 2. The commutative property of multiplication works the exact same way. The order of the factors can change and the product will stay the same. 3 times 8 is the same thing as 8 times 3. The associative property is going to be all about group changes, where the parentheses will move, but you'll end up with the same answer. So for the associative property of addition, you could write 2 plus, and then in parentheses, 8 plus 9, and that would give you the exact same answer as, in parentheses, 2 plus 8 plus 9. The groups can change when it's all addition, but your sum will stay the same. The associative property for multiplication is going to work the exact same way. If you have multiple factors, you can regroup the parentheses in order to keep the product the same. So in the equation, 2 times, in parentheses, 7 times 5, that's going to give you the exact same answer as, in parentheses, 2 times 7 times 5. Now the identity property of addition is a little bit different from the identity property of multiplication. So let's talk about the difference. The identity property is all about getting the original number. So if we're going to be adding, we're going to want to add a 0 to our original number, so that way the sum stays the same. In this example, 27 plus 0 equals 27. For the identity property of multiplication, we're not going to be multiplying by 0. What we're actually going to multiply is 1. So anytime you multiply a number by 1, your product is going to be that original number. So in 25 times 1, your answer is going to be 25. So remember, in the identity property of addition, you're going to add 0, but in the identity property of multiplication, you're going to multiply by 1. Now the distributive property of multiplication is special, because if you notice, it actually contains both multiplication and addition. This is going to be the only property that contains both multiplication and addition in the same equation. So by multiplying by a sum of a number, it's the same thing as multiplying each addend by the number and adding the products. So what that means is if we have 7 times 9 plus 1, that's the same thing as doing 7 times 9 plus 7 times 1. You're distributing the 7 to each aspect of your parentheses part. So you distribute the 7 to the 9, and you distribute the 7 to the 1. Now the inverse property is all about looking at the opposite or the reciprocal of a number. And it's going to result in 2 different answers depending on if it's addition or multiplication. So in addition, the opposite or the reciprocal of a whole number is a negative number. So if I have 3 and I want to write the reciprocal, that's going to be negative 3. 3 plus negative 3 equals 0. So the inverse property of addition always results in the answer 0. For multiplication, the reciprocal is going to be a fraction, because the opposite or the inverse of multiplication is division, and fractions represent division. So if I have 3, the reciprocal is going to be 1/3. 3 times 1/3 equals 1. the answer of the inverse property of multiplication will always be 1. And our final property is the multiplicative of 0. So that means any number you multiply by 0 equals 0. 3 times 0 equals 0, 7 times 0 equals 0, 1,000 times 0 equals 0, 1,793,032 times 0 equals 0. Any number you multiply by 0 equals 0. So these are our properties of multiplication and addition. So now I want you to do some practice on a Google form to identify the different properties.